And let him introduce himself.
My name is Taylor Downing. Like he said, I'm an Alva native, born and raised. It's one of those things that I've been around the world, and so I've always wanted to make my home in Alva. I've always believed that it is through service to your community that you make the world a better place, and that's why I'm here to do that. I think that we have made some mistakes in the past, but I think that Alva has a lot going to it. I think the answer to our future is economic growth through having events and bringing people in here so that we can share what makes our community great with them. And I know once we do that, they'll want to make this home just like all we have. Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Mayor Parker. Kelly, the only tidbit I know about you is somebody said you were a super football player back in high school.
We don't need to get into debates today.
I think that was a statement from Mr. Chafee.
My name's Kelly Parker. Born and raised in Alva, and my family has been in Woods County and Alfalfa County for 5 generations. I love this town, and I think that, as Mr. Dowling said, our town does have a lot going for it. We've accomplished a lot in the last few years, and I think that we can accomplish some more. There's a lot of great things that can be accomplished in our town. Why do I do this? Because it's a position where when you sign up to do something like this, it's not for the money. It's certainly not for the headaches, but it is absolutely because when you're able to lead a group of people that have like interests in a forward direction, you can really accomplish some great things. We've had millions of dollars worth of improvements that have happened in our community over the last 8 years. There's millions more to come. We have not necessarily had the best of outcomes on everything at times, but I think that is life. We always have to anticipate that there's going to be some challenges, and I think that in leadership you have to realize that when you face those challenges, sometimes you're not always faced with clear black and white, there's one right answer. I know that when I became a nursing home administrator, the test was designed to give you 4 answers that are all correct, and you choose what's best. And I think some of you educators in the room are familiar with some of that testing strategy, and it's designed to help make sure that you understand that there's always more than one way to skin a cat. And it's important that in a position like mayor that, because you don't have any vote. At the end of the day, in Alva, Oklahoma, the mayor doesn't vote on anything. You break a tie, and I've done that once in the 8 years that I've been mayor, and I can't even remember what it was for. But the important thing is that you make sure that you present information to your council members so that they are able to have a good understanding of the issue, see all sides of an issue, so that when they come into that room to make decisions, they make the best decisions they can in the best interest of our community. I think that I have a strong faith in God, and I'm grateful that He has blessed me with the opportunity to serve our community and serve all of you, the people that work for the city, the people that live in the city, the people that come visit our city. And I think that we have more blessings ahead of us. So I'll wait for the questions now. I
don't know if you want to sit or however you wish to do this. I've been cornered by a lady a few days ago that had a question. She told me 3 times to make sure it's asked. So if Kathleen is taping it, I won't be in trouble. A few days ago, there was an active shooter incident at the high school before school started. And no message was sent out, to my understanding. No message was sent to the parents. The police coup-pawed it, and the parents began arriving at 7:30 without finding the foundation, and nothing was done. And I thought, well, that's the decision to close the school in my area. That was always a decision by the superintendent. But this person was very upset that the police department did nothing. Maybe they did, I just don't know about it. So should there be a better program for an active shooter situation, or the possibility of an active shooter situation? Richard?
I think one of the good things that, and I think the mayor will agree with me on this, that one of the good things our municipality does is it does partner at our police level office department with the city, so that we have an officer there that's contractually obligated to take care of that. I've also talked to the superintendent and talked about the many drills that they're putting people through. There was some fear about the art room and its conclusion to that, and the cameras. And I will say, the times that I've been to the high school and our schools, their security has been very good at the tight of the door, the ability to check people in. And I think if you've dropped kids off lately, they run a pretty tight ship there, especially picking kids up and dropping them off. I think it's one of those things that we have to be involved, but ultimately the superintendent and the people who run the school understand what's going on there, and if we need to be involved more, I'm sure they'll reach out and be involved more. I think we have to be there to help support them in their needs, but ultimately they are the ones that know the day-to-day school and understand this and are educated in that field to understand what needs to be done, when the time is to pull that trigger, or when it is not. But it's one of those things that I've never dealt with this growing up. But my daughter and many people in her class have talked about what it's like going through those shooter drills at a very young level. They've talked about kids that broke down and could not continue the day because of how scary that is as teachers make loud clapping noises. And it's an unfortunate reality we must face in these days. It's one of those things that I think we're blessed being in a small community that has had good gun education throughout every grade. I remember learning gun education from BB guns when I was young in school through the program that they did recently. I think it's one of those things that any time you have something that is a fear, it's the ignorance of that situation. The more that you can practice and the more that you can understand, you can never fully prepare, but it makes you more comfortable with the situation.
Mayor Parker?
I don't have a lot to add. I do think it is a school, when you're dealing with the active shooter situation at the school, it's definitely a school issue. We do have officers involved in the schools, and so I think the schools are taking measures to make sure that their students are safe. We, obviously, I'm not familiar on the details of our response. I can't speak to that. I can find that out if anybody wants to know exactly what happened.
I would. I'd like to know. I would think there would be a procedure in place.
There are
And
procedures.
let the parents know.
They shut the doors and didn't let any students come in.
So,
And the police were there immediately.
We got a group text,
Yeah.
not long after.
Yeah,
After the fact that students were already arrived at school.
but they didn't let them go in. They kept them out.
We got a message from the school on our phones about what was going on.
Yeah.
So, and clearly explained it. So,
And everybody knows these active shooters aren't just inside the school. They start on the outside and go in. So,
This was
in
all
fact,
from inside.
yeah, that's scary.
Frank.
I'll just say that it's going to be important as our community to continue to work with the school district to make sure that whatever resources we can provide and support, that we do that. The school board has been, I'm sure they have, I know every level of government, schools, healthcare, whatever it may be, they've been through quite a bit of disaster preparedness training, whether that be active shooters or whether that be, acts of God or whatever it may be. When the superintendent calls, we always, pick up the phone and see what we can do to help. So we'll continue to do that.
Anybody else have anything to comment before I move on? If you don't mind standing, people, there's lots of room back here by this door. There's empty chairs over here in this corner. And thank you all for coming. Kelly, I'll start this question with you. Some people have raised their eyebrows over what appears to be an alliance between Share, the college, and the city council, sometimes including Central National Bank. Is that just a figment of people's imagination? Or, I mean, I've been hit with that several times. That if you're not from one of those three agencies, you know, you probably aren't going to get much done in Alva.
I don't know it's the first time I'm hearing it. I know that people have questioned my involvement, and that was part of the subject of this as a petition on it that came through. And you know, I am an employee of Share Medical Center, and it's been fully disclosed all along. I think everybody knows that. And I think what's devil's advocate, and I know you're asking the question, but what's wrong with major entities in the community working together? I mean, I don't know maybe what the rumor mill is referring to with an alliance, but the university is a major player in our community. The hospital and the healthcare system is a major player in this community. Bank Central has been a major player in our community. City has their bank accounts at Bank Central, but we've got CDs all over the town. So, I mean, we depend on all of the city is not going to function with only 2 or 3 entities, you know, working together. It's going to take all willing participants to move things forward. And you know, part of me says I don't know what rumor you're hearing, but on the other side of that, what's wrong with all the entities in our community working together?
Would you like to add anything?
Sure. I will say this. I certainly have not seen any sort of conspiracy that directly relates to the two, but I will say this. The good old boy system is definitely alive and well in the city of Alva. And I don't think that a conspiracy would be the right word, but I think we've all fallen into patterns where we ask people that we know what we think we should do. And if all you know are people from Share Medical Center, or if all you know are people from Northwestern, that's all the answers you're ever going to get. And that goes the same for Bank Central. And I know that both Share Medical Center and Northwestern are major tax recipients from the city of Alva. I know that Bank Central holds the general fund for the city accounts. And so it's one of those things where we do want to support local businesses, but we don't want to do it to the point where it forms a monopoly, not to let other trees or plants grow up out of that. You know what I mean? We don't want to hinder anyone. You know what I mean? It is the job of the municipality to make sure people play fair and fair nicely. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to live here if they don't think they'll be treated fairly. If they think that, well, if I move here, the people who are already here get the right to treat me like dirt, they'll leave. And a lot of people have. It's one of those things that I can remember in my generation, the city of Alva was a lot larger, and every consecutive year, we retain less and we receive more. And it's one of those things that a lot of people point to that good old boy system, because it is hard if you're not to rise up. As far as conspiracy, I find that hard to believe. You know what I mean? Small towns are a bit of a rumor mill, but I certainly see favoritism.
Would somebody from the audience like to ask a question? Yes, sir.
My name's John Wigmer. I was born and raised in Alva. This is for Taylor Dowling. I'd just like for you to explain, when I look at the minutes, just going through 2 months of minutes, it's either a no or an abstain vote from you on almost every single vote. The only votes that you vote yes are when it's just approving minutes or something like that. So tell me your strategy, why you choose to abstain. I understand no when it's an automatic system of government anyway, which abstaining is no.
Abstaining is no, and so usually when I abstain, I may not have an issue directly relating to that item. Generally when I abstain from the minutes, there have been problems with the past with getting documentation correctly on time. There are statutes and limits that put in place to say you must get this in this format to the city council at certain times. And it has gone drastically downhill since Angelica left, which many hands make light work, so few hands make a lot of work. and it takes a long time, so I can understand that. But if you can see, our municipality has had an issue with asking questions over the past. You know what I mean? Since 2015, our community has lost $3.5 million. That's a devastating number, and I'll say that again, $3.5 million. And you can see that part of that issue is simply with the audit not being reported correctly. The issue that we have in the city of Alva is making sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. And that's a lot of the times when I abstain from minutes is because of that. Otherwise than that, there have been a few instances where council meetings and the number of council members that were there were not reported correctly. And then outside of that, if I abstain from a vote that is in general like the fire truck, I don't think it makes good financial sense. I'm not going to say that the fire department doesn't need a fire truck.
Why not just put it on record, no?
No, it's the same thing. So it is recorded as a record as a no. It is.
Say it as a no.
The no.
So in
But
the
I just
city
don't want
minutes,
to think-
It does come out as a nay.
Yeah.
It is in the minutes, but.
The minutes are recorded as a no, and it should be a no as recorded in the city council minutes. But I don't want people to think that I disagree with something that can be continued. I think there are certainly processes that we could have put in place. We received a large grant of ARPA funding that could have just paid for that fire truck outright. But it could not go to that because of the system that we had created. This system is still put in place. The pooled cash account still exists.
That's incorrect. The ARPA funds had to be directly used for specific things.
Part of that was public safety. Thank you. Okay, next question.
Brandon?
I'd like to add on to that. Brandon Sherman, I used to sit on city council. I sat with Taylor Dowling. There's two reasons that Oklahoma Municipal League gives to give an abstention. Either you don't know enough about the material or you have a direct conflict of interest. So to Pete's answer, why not just vote no? And a second part to that, you voted no on a lot of stuff, but there's never any debate or explanation to why there's a no vote. Do you not think that your opinion may sway other council members to vote no with you? Or
I believe on a lot of the hotly debated topics, I have explained to the detriment of what I think Kelly says. You know what I mean? I've been cut off before. I have attempted to explain things in a way that does not fit with the avenue of conversation that the council would like. I like to ask questions that I don't think a lot of the other council members appreciate. So I don't want to hinder somebody else's decision just because I think it's a bad idea. So I don't want people to think that because I say no, that I think it's a terrible idea. If I say no, I think it's a terrible idea and it could have never gone anywhere. If I abstain, I'm saying I'm taking a step back because I think there are better ways of doing it. I don't want to hinder something that I think could succeed. You know what I mean? But there are better ways of doing it. And that's the problem that we've had for a long time. We sit around and we pretend like there's one way of doing it. We only can do it this way. We do not seek opinions from our citizenry to come up with answers. We develop the answers on our own. It is our job as politicians to feel and help you guys run the city you think that we should have. Not force our opinions and tell you how we think the city must be ran. It's the citizens' city. And I'm simply an elected official who listens to the people that I represent. I don't even think that all the things that I abstain for would be negative in the long run, but the people that I represent do. And the people that I represent, it is negative for.
It just makes it seem like you don't know an answer or make your own mind up.
You're absolutely, I can understand how that could give that appearance, but I promise you, I've read 15 years of audits for the city council that are posted up there so that I can correctly and accurately tell you our cash and financial situation. So I know and I understand. But if any individual item you'd like to reach me at, please feel free to reach me out. My phone number, if you'd like to take it down, is 580-748-2515. Any item that I have voted on, I make sure to seek citizens' answers with it so that I can understand what they think and thus what I should think about an item.
if the majority of citizens that are talking to you are telling you that it would be a negative effect, then why abstain and not say, I'm a no vote?
I did. So very rarely, and I believe in this room, this is probably the case, I don't think we'll ever get a consistent answer from everyone. So there are various opinions that I get. And so I try to represent them to the best of my ability. It's not always easy, you know what I mean? And I offend some people, but I help a lot of others. And it's just a balancing act that you have to commit to.
Thank you, Taylor. You want to add anything, or let me hit you with another question?
I don't want to get into a debate. point of clarification, ARPA dollars could not be used for the fire truck. There are excerpts of all the audits up there. The audit is an 80-some page document. One page standalone does not make a complete audit, so I'll just want to make that point. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I would add that actually Crawford and Associates was the person I ranked out, and I said, what is the easiest way to explain the financial health of a municipality? And it is specifically the unassigned cash balance. That is a good, easy understanding, and that is what that one page that I have represented there has kind of explained. And that was the managing shareholder of Crawford and Associates that kind of helped lead me in that direction.
To go on, and some of you know that one of my personal issues is getting the new pool. I know we've made great progress towards that. Mayor Parker, you want to say anything about the pool?
We've made great progress towards the pool. The Parks and, started this several years ago. The first measure that was put out for the people was a bond issue that failed. Since then, we went back to the drawing board and have had multiple people sit on, the kind of the driving steering committee for the pool, and we've been able to, at this point, City Council has approved tentative plans. Today we're waiting on the final drawings. We've got an engineer that's architecture firm that's working on getting those wrapped up. So we're real close to being able to see what those plans look like. But I think all of you guys have, if you've looked in the paper, or maybe you joined us out at the recreation complex a couple months ago, you could have seen the drawings that have been conceptualized, what the pool will be, what it's going to look like, and some of the features that it'll have. We do have one of the themes that we heard over and over again, as we've talked about the pool for several years now, has been the priority of preserving the history of our pool and its architecture. We will be moving forward when we have the plans. They are encompassing saving the bathhouse and actually taking it back to taking down some walls that have been put up in the inside and bringing it back to what it was originally. We did receive recognition on the National Historic Registry, and so that is going to open up some funding opportunities, we believe, for us. And it's something where we've already received $500,000 cash donation, $2 million in matching pledge donations, and we're presently waiting on word back from the Land and Water Conservation Fund folks to see if we're going to receive the $500,000 that we've applied for from them. The pool is an important economic driver in our community, and I think when you're talking about something like a community facility that you're trying to make fit the needs of the majority of people, you're going to have situations where somebody thinks we shouldn't have a diving board and somebody thinks we shouldn't have this, that, or the other. At the end of the day, not everybody's going to get what they want out of the pool design, so let's come up with a plan that meets the most prevalent needs that people have expressed. Kimley Horn did a great job. Some of you may have participated in the public meetings that they held out there to get input from everybody. We talked to school children, we talked to parents, we talked to leaders in the community, and I say we, Kimley Horn did that on behalf of the city, and so I feel like we have an excellent plan for the pool, and we are seeking donations to be able to bring that to fruition.
Thank you. Anybody else have another question?
Yes, right there.
Yes, sir.
Kelly, back during the winter, the Bull was delivering meals to the water department guys. We'd go out there, same with the 818 and some of the other restaurants in town, trying to help out those guys. And gosh, Rick, you are the most underpaid person in town. We get out there and we see the mayor in a hole. I mean, why are we in that situation where you have to be out there in waders digging through mud? You're our mayor.
Our form of government, the mayor is the CEO. We do have in our ordinances the option to hire a business manager, and but when we don't have a business manager, the mayor is basically the CEO. And my leadership style is on a major event such as that was, where we had 4 major line breaks, or 4 breaks in our main line serving the city, occur within about a 4-hour period. And, it was evident very quickly that we were going to need to do something, and do something very fast, or we were going to risk being without, water for, and I know we were without water for, some of you for hours, some of you for days. And so, depending on where you are located in our system. I feel like it's important, when that's the leadership role that you have, you've got to be there with your crews that are working. You've got to be there. I mean, we've brought in contract companies to come in and work as well. And we, had to, I needed my water superintendent and his crew doing the things that they do, so that I could be helping to coordinate additional resources. We had, gosh, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but everything from meals to heavy equipment to, Ethan with Woods County Emergency Management, he brought out some light plants. I mean, they're calling the mayor of Winoka to see if we can get some of their, pumps. I mean, I couldn't have the guy that has skills, making repairs, also being the guy to have to try to make all those phone calls and line up other resources. I need him to tell me what he needs, and then I figure out where to get him. And I think that, in a leadership position, and I don't care what you're leading, if you're, whether it's my nursing home, whether it's a classroom, whatever it is, when the people that are counting on you need something, you make yourself available. I mean, if they were going to be out there not getting any sleep, I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't be out there not getting any sleep either.
I think that specific instance is a great example of why a small town is a great place to live, because everybody works together. But I think that is a symptom of the large amount of staff layoffs that we've had to have over the years to compensate for the lack of cash on hand to hire more people. It's one of those things that it should be no secret among city departments that there are less and less people being employed by the city.
We have not had layoffs.
If you've not walked in to the city business office, how many people are there compared to just a year ago or 2 years ago, let alone 5?
There's not staff layoffs. We lose people to attrition, and we're Alva, Oklahoma, and it's hard to find people.
It's hard to pay them well too. I agree. It's hard to pay them when you don't have the money. It's hard to retain people when you can't treat your employees right because you don't have the money on hand, because the budget is not taken care of.
Okay, I think the comment about not treating the employees is very incorrect.
I've talked to a few and they would disagree, but like I said, everybody has a different opinion, and I don't think I could get a room full of people to agree on one thing. But when some people are happy, some people are sad. But your department is very well taken care of.
Just for ensuring the appropriate information is out there, the city has not had layoffs.
Yes, sir. I got a question for Kelly. Kelly, you've laid out in your paper here how you intend to appoint committees.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, in the Alva ordinances and stuff, it says the mayor will appoint members to committees, and there's some committees like hospital where it actually the city council has to approve your appointments. Other like the airport commission, you're the sole person that decides who goes on there. My question is why you have chosen to appoint yourself to some of those committees instead of other people. And secondly, like the airport board, which I'm an aviator, I'm familiar with that. The last 2 people you appointed have been non-aviators, yourself and Caleb.
So specifically regarding the airport board, I didn't talk to everybody on the, at the airport, but I talked to people that had some awareness of the history. They had indicated that there wouldn't always be a 100% representation of people in aviation. Because the airport is such an economic driver, that it's felt that other business persons should be involved. Because of the agriculture interests out on the ground, that people in agriculture were involved, and those sorts of things. The board that we have right now has been in place. I think Terry was the last. I'm sure of it. Terry was the last member that we appointed. I'm not going to ever have it be to where there isn't a majority of pilots on the board. That would be my preference, that it's always a majority of pilots. But my opinion is I think it's important to have...
So my question specifically is, why did you appoint yourself to one of our city authorities or commissions instead of...
I appointed myself to the airport board because at the time there was... I'd been involved with some projects and other issues that board had been dealing with as mayor. The council member that had been serving on the board moved out of the city. Of the people on the city council, I wanted to, I felt like I had the most knowledge of what the business of the airport was at that time.
That's your answer?
That's my answer. That was approved by, fairly certain, we can go back and check minutes, but I don't think I've appointed anybody to any committee that didn't receive city council approval.
And trying to show neutrality, former Mayor Chafee appointed himself to like the library board and a couple of other boards, so this is not an unusual practice. Next question. Yes, sir.
Mr. Dowling, I understand that, or I'm hearing that you'd like to reduce taxes, like the hospital tax, the rec park tax, the college tax. Do you not believe that, especially the hospital and the college, are probably our two main things in this town? If we lose the hospital, we'll lose the college, and our town will die. If we lose the college, we'll lose the hospital, and our town would die. Now, I'm not for taxes, but those are taxes we need.
I guess I'd first start out by saying the city of Alva needs a hospital. He's completely and utterly right. We cannot support Northwestern without them. There is not good medical facilities in this area that can support. And I guess I would argue that if you're really bleeding out, I would question if Share Medical Center is really the place you want to go, or if you'll be bled out and sent off. But I will say this. The tax, I would say they have to be supported with that. I think that
I'm sorry, no. I can't.
That's fine. I think that this position our city is in, the direction we are going at, is not sustainable. We are, because of over-assumption of revenue, we have spent more every year than we have taken in. It is an unfortunate fact that we fund ourselves off of sales tax. And if you look forward, the sales tax has trickled and small, and any economic aficionado that I've talked to does not see a brighter end at the end of that tunnel. And I'll say this, I believe that we must work with the current tax we have to get out of the situation we are in. But is any tax, when you're talking about a 20 or a 30-year time span, meant to last forever? We are currently committed with the Share Medical Center because of the loans they have extended to nearly 2040 to 2050.
6 more years, folks.
So
I can show you in the audit where it says 2050. So I can promise you that, but the AHA is an indebtedness to the municipality.
I'm not going to argue
and
with
the
you.
annual-
6 more years, folks.
Are you saying that you will, if you became mayor, you will try to do away with those taxes?
I think that you have to have what you have, and I think we need to work better with what we have.
Okay,
I don't
that
think
didn't
we are in a
answer my
position to reduce it.
That didn't
No.
answer my
It sounds
question.
like he wants to get rid of share.
No, I don't think we should get rid of share. I think that they need to reprioritize the direction they are going so it can better serve the community. I
I
think,
agree, but you still didn't answer my question.
Oh.
Do you want to take away the taxes for the college?
oh, no.
Do you want to take away the taxes from the hospital?
No.
Do you want to take away the taxes from the rec park?
I only think that the city should require more reporting and oversight on them. I do not believe that the municipality, any time in the short term, can reduce those taxes and allow those organizations to stay afloat. And those organizations are key to the city of Alva. I don't think that it is an easy thing to do to take those off in a short term. I think,
But you would like to see the process at some time do away with those taxes?
not in the next 4 years, certainly not. I just don't see it in the budget personally.
Okay, so I'm still not understanding. Is
No,
it
I
yes
will
or
not.
no?
No, it is a no.
Okay,
Sorry.
I didn't ask you, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I wanted to make sure
I
that
didn't.
I am not happy with the current way things are ran.
Right.
I do not believe it is reasonable to assume that they could pivot on the dime like that. They have become accustomed and need that revenue.
Mr. Dowling, have you been a recipient of the taxes given to the college?
I believe when I first applied for a freshman scholarship, it lasted 2 years. Yeah, which is about $500. I played in the band. And I went to Ranger Preview, which is the scholarship that everybody who goes to Ranger Preview gets. But outside of that, I do not believe that it extended it. The only other scholarship I received...
So you received money from the city, from the funds from the city?
probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. It certainly did not make the difference between me going to Northwestern or
I'm
not.
not saying it did or didn't.
No.
I'm just
Next question. You two want a break?
I have a,
Yes.
I don't really have a question. Actually, I just kind of have a statement. My name is Rosalie Rivera. Wasn't born in Alva, Oklahoma. I think most people know that. Local painter, all my girls, you see them painting right now. But I've lived in Alva or outside of the city limits for half my life. So I consider Alva my home. And I'm not going anywhere because I have a farm and 8 acres and all that on my farm. But since the last 30 plus years that I've lived here, I have noticed, and to my heart, I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico, I'm Hispanic, I have noticed an increased number of Hispanics in Alva, which warms my heart and thrills me. And to you mayors, and also not just the Hispanic community, but our black community on the college, if there was anything you guys could do in this community to make our minorities feel more inclusive to this town. Back when I first moved here, they used to celebrate Cinco de Mayo downtown. Do y'all remember that? And they would have bands and everything. It was wonderful, you know? And I mean, I'd like for that to be a part of this town. I'd like for the Hispanic community to feel that I noticed, and I'm not picking and choosing banks. I'm just saying because it's the bank that I go to. I noticed Holder Drugs has people that are bilingual.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's fantastic, you know, and I noticed my bank, and I'm not going to mention, has Hispanic tellers. Love it, you know. A lot of these people don't want to have to carry their kids with them everywhere they go and wait till they get out of school. You know, I think inclusivity is wonderful in this community, and we're not going anywhere. We love Alva. So it's not really a question, it's just a consideration.
I think diversity is very important, and I've thought that my entire life. And Alva's not, when I was growing up, Alva wasn't a very diverse community. The university brings a lot of diversity into our community, and I have had the honor and privilege, whether here in town or in other places throughout my career, to work with, a great many wonderful people with very different ethnicities, cultures, backgrounds, what have you, and I absolutely couldn't agree with you more. As an employer, the city of Alva is obviously equal opportunity. We do not discriminate based on race or any number of other things. And I think that every person has value, and it does not matter what your skin color is, and it does not matter where you came from, and it does not matter so many other things. And I would love to see more diversity in our community, and serving in even leadership positions. And so I have with regard to that, I have made it a point that whenever someone leaves the council, I'm always looking for a female to take a council seat, so it's not just a bunch of old white guys sitting up there. I think that's important, and I want to see representation from our community on our city council. I am who I am. I can't change who I am, but I can help other people become involved, and I try to do that. As far as the events on the square, you guys, whatever you want to do, I'm game. I like a good party. I know that the university tries to do things on the square. I know that different groups have tried to do things on the squares and successfully do so. So whatever it is, I'm game.
Just 1 minute, Paul. Since you're game, what happens on September 16th of this year?
That's your birthday?
It supposedly is Alva's 130th birthday.
Is it really?
And according to Kay Decker, and I don't argue with you. So there is an effort out there trying to figure out to do something to celebrate the 130th birthday in September.
And I think this year's the 100th anniversary of the Gold Bug, too.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Oh, wow, that's a big deal.
September 15th, 17th is the big cruise week.
Yeah, it's the same weekend as the car show.
Oh, so we're having a party.
We have a big party.
Anybody have a, yes, now, Paul.
Okay. Paul Barton, I'm from Alva, born and raised here. This is my wife, Melinda. I think most people know her. I just wanted to say, this summer, she had a very serious medical issue on a Sunday. We went to the clinic. We were then transferred to the emergency room to share. She was then metaphylized to heme. She ended up having stage 1 ovarian cancer, and fortunately, she has recovered very well from that, and everything is okay. We would definitely go to Share Medical Center if she were bleeding out. Under any circumstances.
I actually did that specifically because my wife, after she was pregnant, went to Share Medical Center because there were complications after birth. We saw a nurse there, and they turned us away because they said they were unable to do any sort of thing because they did not have blood on hand. So we had to drive ourselves to Enid at midnight to take care of that. So that's why I used that specific example. Thank you.
Yes, Joe?
So my question would be, there's been a little talk about Joe Parsons, local real estate agent, and running for city council. There's been some talk about the sales taxes. And my personal opinion, which is that, we have all these taxes in place to support the things that Alva needs and has to have, and there's no way we could be what we are without these things that these sales taxes support. In my opinion, we need to be looking at a way to make the whole pie bigger, and not, because we can't get rid of any of these little pieces of our sales tax, in my opinion. So do either of you guys have any ideas to make the whole sales tax collection bigger as a whole? Recently, I was able to attend a meeting on economic development with the Northwest Oklahoma Alliance, which is a group of communities in Northwest Oklahoma who are working together to try to grow their communities. And I was able to attend, in attendance was our chamber director, which was, I was glad to see her there, but I wish to see more involvement from the Alva community in organizations such as that. And I completely understand in the time we're at without a manager that you are a very busy person, so I'm not saying that you should have been there, but that's something I'd like to see in the future, and I just wanted to hear your opinions on that.
So the Northwest Oklahoma Alliance is a great organization. I've participated in their functions numerous times in the past. They do a lot for our area. I've worked with the Lieutenant Governor's Turkey Hunt event, and we bring in people from all over the world to come try and get them to set up shop here in Alva, and at least, Woods County. In my opinion, anything good for Woods County, good for Alva. We're the county seat, we're the, economic hub, and so when, something's going on at the sand dunes, whether it's snake hunt or the UTV invasion or, anything like that, those people are spending money in Alva, and we want to see that. We need to diversify the, what's going on in Alva. I think we need to continue to, 20-some years ago, Melinda can correct me if I'm wrong, but when the tourism tax was put into place, that is something that is 100% outside money coming into our community to fund things that we can do in our community. We need to continue to, when I say I like a good party, I know, because when we have a good enough party, people come from miles around and they spend their money that they earned in Enid or Woodward or wherever they, or Wichita or Oklahoma, wherever they come from. And we need that coming in so that we have the extra money that we need to be able to do the quality of life things that are important to all of us that live here 24/7. That air race that we had come through Alva a few years ago, tremendous. And the amount of traffic that has come to our airport because we were able to participate in that has been phenomenal. And we've got an excellent airport. And as far as economic development goes, we need to be focusing on things we can do to enhance that aspect of our community as well. We have in Avard great manufacturing opportunity for anybody that depends on rail for the, and this isn't managed by the city of Alva, but we have an obligation with the city of Alva because where does Avard get their water? Avard gets their water mostly from the city of Alva. They get a little bit from Winoka, but mostly all of these things are intertwined together and connected to the city of Alva. And so while the city needs to have some focus on the city entities and making sure that we're getting the most out of the resources that we're responsible for, we also have to make sure that our infrastructure is ready so that when someone says, I need to set up a million square foot manufacturing facility, that we've got enough water to supply them, and we have enough water. We need transmission lines. We've got about $80 million worth of work that needs to be done on our transmission lines right now, and I know everybody hates talking about utility rates, but that's how you pay to make sure that you have quality infrastructure. In the time before I became mayor, there had not been adequate attention given to the rates that people were paying for their utilities. I don't like paying them either, but you know what I don't like worse? Not having any water. And we have the newest parts of our system, with the exception of some of the projects we've done in the last few years, the newest parts of our system are over 40 years old. And that's the water tower up on Young Street, the two tanks that were up there, combined life, 160 years old. That is well outside of what's reasonable to expect out of the life of any of this infrastructure. And I'm really glad that we've been able to get the ARPA funding. We got $1 million in ARPA funding this year. We got another $1 million in loan forgiveness through DEQ. We're going to be able to do about $2.5 million worth of projects at a cost of about $500,000 for the city of Alva. We have to keep doing that. We have to keep, we've hired a grant writer so that we are able to be at the table when those grants are released and that we have an application ready to go in and say, yes, we would like that $1 million that you're giving away, and we would like to use it to improve our community. And that's what we're doing. And we're going to keep doing that because that's what's important to make sure that our economy can thrive. You can't run a restaurant without water, can you, Joe?
No, sir.
Can you run a hotel without water?
No, sir.
You can drive across a bumpy road, but if you don't have water waiting for you when you get there, I want the streets fixed too, guys, and since I've been mayor, we have done more street improvements than probably been done in the last 30 years prior. We've resurfaced over 100 blocks of city streets with the $5 fee that was put into place before I became mayor. But that $5 fee gives us about $160,000 a year. And to contract streets done, you can't do that much for $160,000 a year. I got two road guys sitting right over here that know very well how limited $160,000 is. We've had to train up our staff to be able to do these things and make the most efficient use we can out of the money that we have. We've done that. Are we finished? No. Are roads ever finished? No. Because by the time you get, to the end of it, it's already everything. It's like painting your house. You're not going to paint it once and be done. If you didn't want paint, you get brick. But constant maintenance is what's required in the city, and deferred maintenance is what our practice had been for so long. And it's taken everything we've got to try to do the things that we've done. We've bought 2 trash trucks since I've been mayor. We bought police cars. We bought fire trucks. We're getting ready to buy another fire truck. We have done so much with very little resources. 2015, that was a great time to become mayor because that's about the time that oil went. Yeah. And so all that sales tax that was coming in, prior to 2015, it went away. And we have had to scrape, and we have had to make sacrifices, and we have had to just do whatever it takes to keep things going in our city. And it's time that we make some plans to take care of the long-range plans of the infrastructure needs of our city. And you know what that takes? It takes money. And we've got to do it in a way that doesn't create too much of a burden to where people can't succeed in Alva. We've got to do it in a way that doesn't hamper anybody's quality of life. And we've got to do it in a way that's safe to everybody that's going to be the recipient of our infrastructure. Thank you.
I think I said many hands make light work. Many people splitting a check make it pretty cheap for everybody. I think we have to focus on economic growth. I think that's twofold. One, I want to show families how great of a community we have to live in. That does take a more affordable place to live than other places. We don't have the opportunities of Oklahoma City. You know what I mean? We have to stand out on our own merits. We also have to attract people through our events. It's one of those things. I think there are good partnerships with the airport and Northwestern. A good example of that is they've opened up college credits to allow for flight school and stuff like that. I remember growing up here when they used to have flight shows and air shows and ships over at the airport and stuff like that. I think we need to work harder in how we spend our tax money to attract events. I'm working with some people to bring, if you guys remember right, there's an obstacle course here. They sought tax money. I would like to responsor that event. I would like them to receive tax money if they add an obstacle to our park that is a permanent fixture. It's one of those things. I've been down to Hatfield Park. They've only taken away from that park. Maintenance and keeping together, but there are new equipment. We need economic ideas that add sticking and long-lasting effects. It's not, in my opinion, enough just to attract people here. We needed things that keep them coming back, events like the car show that last a long time. And we don't want to just invest in people coming here for one day. We want to invest in things that also benefit our community because that event's happened, not just through sales tax. I would also like to see wind festivals. It's one of those things that we have wonderful weather to fly a kite in when it's not too windy. There are communities around us that sponsor airship balloons. It's one of those things that when we ask the community what answers they have, what people they want to bring people here, we will have greater traction keeping things around here. I'm a member of the Nescatonga Arts Festival Committee. It's one of those things that, what can we do to attract businesses here? And he was right. Nobody wants to build a business in an open lot. They want infrastructure ready and prepared to go. The city made a terrible mistake in planning forward when it did not appropriately extend the water lines that go to those hotels so that greater growth could happen on that town. And so that we would have to and add more lines and add more expenses. We need to get a comprehensive plan together. We can't just fix a few roads at a time. We need a plan to fix all the roads so that there cannot be bickering. There can be a unified voice of what is worse and what needs to be fixed immediately and what can wait a few years. And in what order will we do that? It's one of those things that we need to bring the community together, and that's part of a comprehensive plan. It's not an easy solution. Like you said, I think 80 million or of infrastructure. That's
Probably more by today.
it's one of those things that we don't come up with that overnight. We have to have a plan as a community on how we will hold it up, because anybody know where Pitcher, Oklahoma is? They lost their water. There is not a town anywhere, and that happens across the United States all the time. Aging infrastructure makes it almost impossible for somebody to live in a town, and then almost overnight, the town collapses.
So does lead poisoning.
Lead poisoning too, which can be caused.
That's what it is.
So, mining causes lead poisoning in the water well, because so it's one of those things where investing in that infrastructure makes it not easier for us, but for our children and our children's children to live here and call this places home. So it's certainly attracting businesses and not getting in the mindset of this business will compete with us. Like I think we've heard of, I don't know, I've lived in Alva long enough that it's hard to keep track of the times when there's been a Brahms or a KFC or what was the last one, like a Friday, that attracts it here. You know what I mean? And then it always falls through. We have to become a place where these communities want to go. And it's as easy as having a comprehensive plan. Say, hey, this is where we'd like to go. Do you want to walk with us on that journey? We just have to put it on paper and all agree upon it. And it's something that needs to be done in the city. And I think that's how we start to move in a direction that we can all agree upon.
I've got a very quick question. It's going to be a very quick answer. On Tuesday, which you said next month, but I think we're voting Tuesday. Early voting's already open.
Yeah, on medical marijuana.
So, Resolution 820. Will each candidate just say whether they're for or against that resolution? That's all I want to know.
State question 820. Put up by the people. I don't take a hard stand on marijuana. I don't think that the measures are in place in that state question to protect the people of Oklahoma.
So you're for or against the resolution?
I'll vote no.
Okay.
Feel mostly the same way. I don't think that the process with which we're going through, we're going to run into a lot of roadblocks. State and taxing is all good, but it takes a lot of time to put in place. And I've talked to, I don't know how many number of senators in the House who are kicking themselves over how it was implemented medically because they were not able to put steps in place to even understand it really well. And it's one of those things that we need to give government time to form and stuff like that. But personally, you know what I mean? I think it's one of those things where there's a case in every situation. You know what I mean? That I don't like to tell other people what to do, and I don't like other people to tell me what to do.
Well, yay.
Carla?
So how do you feel about mass incarceration?
That's a pretty significant issue. That's one of those things where I have a lot of opinions. If you didn't know this, my mother was a warden until she retired recently. And I think it's one of those things that the prison system, from my understanding, has come a long ways from what it used to be, but it has a long ways to come. I think, you know what I mean? We have a good example of a good one with Bill Johnson out here and how they work with their programs to rehabilitate places. But I've heard her stories, not about state-ran prisons, but about privately ran prisons and the rate of recitizenship and the rate with which how they keep those people here. And at some points, it's almost criminal. And if you know anything about Texas history and how they started with their rural prisons, a nightmare of what it could be. And that's a bad example. That's a good example of how bad it can be. We're better than that, but we're not as good as we could be.
Same question?
No, different question. This is about, you were talking about infrastructure, and I sincerely don't know how much we can do as a city, but every time I hear the trains going by, I start thinking about East Palestine, Ohio, and what happened there. And we know that the trains are not regulated, that there could be on a 2-mile-long train, 1 or 2 people, and that the braking systems are antiquated. So what can we do to protect ourselves? Because we could be wiped out if one of those trains went through what they did in East Palestine.
You know, we don't have local control, we don't have a lot of control over it. I mean, we really, the railroad has more power than about any entity in the nation. You know, locally, we don't have much control over that. I think what we do is make sure that our emergency responders are prepared to help make sure that, you know, if we've got a north wind and we've got a, you know, a bad hazardous gas or chemical, that we are getting people notified and getting them to safe locations. You know, we work with the railroad to the extent that we can. I mean, there's not a crossing inside the municipal boundaries, so there's not a lot that that we have that we can do locally. I know that the railroad's a tough one. This summer, I think, or maybe it was last fall, when the railroad workers were all going to go on strike. We need the railroad to deliver hazardous chemicals. I'm just being honest, because chlorine gas is how we make sure we have safe drinking water. But that's not a regulation we're going to accomplish here in Alva.
So how we protect ourselves is, you say, it's a good evacuation? Okay.
I mean, another way that the city protects it from city and city council, I know this happens, the fire department trains with Chesapeake. I know that they've done training with the railroad to make sure that they have things on hand to put out chemical fires and do things like that. So,
in the last year, we've developed one of the best training facilities between New Orleans and Denver. I mean, we have excellent fire training facilities, and we have excellent firefighters on our department. And in Northwest Oklahoma, as far as firefighters go, I take our group of firefighters about anywhere. They're good as it gets.
And we have an excellent emergency manager.
We have an award-winning emergency manager.
I'm glad you all came. It's 7 o'clock. I try to keep meetings to an hour. I'm going to encourage our 2 candidates to circle and talk to you individually. I did promise Mr. Parson if he wanted to give a brief introduction of himself as a candidate for City Council. If there's any other people here running for City Council, they can also give a little spiel. Joe?
Let me use part of my time to ask one last question. It's something that I'm just curious about opinions-wise, because this is something I personally think could be beneficial for our citizens. To have nice things, you know, it takes money. We all know that. And water is a necessity. Water raises, it is going to be a necessity to raise water rates at times. But there are people in our community that whenever their water rates are increased, their incomes don't increase. We have a lot of elderly people living on a fixed income in our community. And that's been something I've been approached by, is how do we keep these people safe and take care of these people? What are your guys' opinions on some sort of rate freeze or assistance form that we can have citizens fill out? That I just don't want anybody in our community to go without water because they cannot afford it. So that's just a question.
I'd be in favor of both. A rate freeze and then implementing. It's one of those things that we have a great system of churches. If you didn't know this and you are in a hard time, we have a wonderful food bank. There are churches in town that will help you do your laundry and stuff like that. You can apply for Bank It for assistance. We are a community of givers. And it's one of those things I think it would be very easy, even if the city helped put those people in connection. It's very doable. I agree. I think the continuous rate increases with the amount of infrastructure issues that we have, we got to find a new solution because we continuously raise those utility rates. And so I am against that.
I think, I'm not going to make any promises on rates. Nobody that's standing up here should make any promises. Because at the end of the day,
As a mayor, you can't make any promises.
I don't have a
City
vote.
council, yeah, he doesn't have a vote. City council votes that rate increase in, and that's the way we made the ordinance.
Now-
City council has the ability to not vote that rate increase in every year.
what I will say is there is opportunity to access some programs that we haven't had in the city of Alva that help folks that are having trouble with their bills. And there's other groups out there that when you participate in their programs, they put the money up to help out.
To clarify my question, I wasn't saying like never raising rates for anyone. I'm just saying, asking if they think there's a way we can put a system in place for the people in our community who are on fixed incomes,
Like
who
a safety net for the vulnerable?
may not be able to afford an increase, something they can fill out maybe for, if someone's on a fixed income, a rate freeze of some sort on just theirs. I'm not talking the whole community. To have nice things, you have, I completely understand, and water is so important. And there is a lot of people in our community who can afford to pay more for water.
Water's not a nice thing. Water's not a nice thing. It's an essential.
It is, and so that was, I guess, my question is.
I would just say, Joe, I was part of designing the ordinance that's in place. I was part of designing the water rate. You can blame me. We did a lot of research on it. We looked for ways legally to create hardship waivers. There is no legal path for the city to take that can do that. So, I mean, if we forgive one debt,
absolutely,
then it's unfair to not forgive other debt.
So that's why it's important that we
figure out what these
are.
Now I'll introduce myself. Joe Parsons, running for Ward 4 City Council. If you want to talk with me after, I will be here. I'm not going to take all your time. I know everyone's right home, but my biggest thing is I believe that you should be the change you want to see. Everything I do is off of that quote, and that's just, don't complain about something unless you're willing to fix it. Most of you guys know in this room that I've stood in front of city council, or I've made posts on Facebook about things I don't like. And I am not afraid to share my opinion. But I'm also not afraid to get to work on making Alva be the best place it can be. And I think a quote that I will leave you with is, comfort is the enemy of progress, guys. You know, voting for a 20-year-old might not be comfortable, and I completely understand it. But I want to see progress in Alva. I plan to live in Alva my entire life, and I want to be a driving force of making Alva the best place it can be. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Free chicken products for
I was going to ask, is turn around for a play, what would you, since you are running for a council seat, that would vote for that?
Vote for
water rate increase.
Water rate increases? I think that you can't say I am against all increases. I am against all increases. I don't want my bills to go up. But I also know that, you know, being in business in the restaurant industry, whenever my cost of food goes up, your cost of food goes up. And so you have to pay for everything somehow. There's no free money is not exist. I mean, grants are great, but I think there's going to be a time that water increases will be necessary. Whether the current schedule is something that is necessary, I would have to dig deeper and look more into the city finances, but I think that there will be a time it will be necessary, but I'm not going to say that I'm for raising rates at this time.
Just for comparison, we transfer about $1.5 million out of our utility fund to fund general operations in the city.
So we budgeted $1.6 million, and year to date we've transferred just under $600,000. So we are well ahead of schedule in getting the general fund back to where it needs to be. December 31st, I don't think it's news to anybody the financial issues that were that came about from 2018, 2019. But as of December 31st, all funds are in the positive.
And the airport's paid off?
And the airport money is not in it's not in the airport's checking account, but it's in, it is allocated in the general fund and it will be paid off.
I was going to ask, on the city council report, the cash flow still showed $172 million in the cash flow from the city's council report from the last meeting. I have it here, if you'd like me to verify that with you.
Sure.
Can you restate your question because of some clapping going on? A lot of us didn't even hear.
I would say, the cash flow trends analyst indicates that $1.5 million deficit right there because of those brackets. Is that just anticipated incoming year revenue?
February numbers aren't here yet.
Okay, that's, I'm just pointing out.
That's
that
I mean, that's a February placeholder, and we haven't finished February's financials.
Okay, so that's what we'll collect in that year? All right, it just shows $1.5 million there for that. But just seeing what I see on a piece of paper.
I would like to thank Mr. Dowling and Mr. Parker for coming.
I want to thank all of you guys for coming out. It's, you know, whether you supported me in the past, whether you're going to support me now, whether or not, I appreciate you taking the time to be out here, taking an interest in your community, and getting some answers to some questions that hopefully you need, or that you have. My phone number, if anybody wants it, it was all over Facebook a couple months ago. 748-1173. I'm not hard to find. You can call City Hall. Heather, give them my number if they call.
I got one more question. We got other council members like Joe that are going to be running. Can we not have something like this for the council also?
It's been suggested today that that the County Democratic Party would put on a nonpartisan city council forum. So that'll probably be coming in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Keep your eyes open.
Mr. Reed, I do have something I'd like to suggest to the council members that are running, that are here. The next time that the city has a water break, or they're short a guy on a trash truck, or on street department, one of you council members or all of you show up to help. I sat for the last year, 2 years, 6-8 days on water line break on the river, and the only person from the city besides their workers that showed up was Mayor Parker and your city manager at the time. There wasn't a city council. That would be good for all you to know what your city employees actually do.
If they haven't let you know, Drake, I often show up to places where they're digging and utility lines and I'll talk to them. I think last time I ordered some hot chocolate for you guys when you're out there digging in the coal. So I do agree that the keystone of being a mayor is being with the people and working and going through the day-to-day of what they go through.
That's council, that's everybody.
Everybody, I agree. I want to take this time to thank everyone who came here. It's one of those things that putting in the effort to be here and hear both of us, it's the first step into making the city of Alva a better place. Because I think I speak
There's a
with both of us.
beautiful drawing in the Bell Hotel lobby that you can see through the window of the park, the pool plant.
It's a community bank too.
That's what I think. All the financial institutions. Yeah.
All over town.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.